system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free.
Good morning, Your Honor. May it please this most honorable court, Attorney Brian J. Prego, P number 74568, appearing on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. May it please this honorable court. My name is Bahan Pak, P number 78252, here on behalf of the distributed government of Pierce to my right.
May it please the court, Judge. My name is Adam Clement, P number 77233. I'm here on behalf of the distributed association. Name of the right, please.
Roy Goodman.
Good morning, Ms. Goodman, Mr. Goodman, Clemens, and Mr. Prego. Today is the day set for sentencing in these cases. Mr. Clemens, have you had a chance to review the pre-sentence investigation report and sentencing guidelines of Mr. Goodman?
Yes, Judge. I have no additions, corrections, deletions to the extent that as it relates to the body of the report. However, we will have some adjustments that Brother Counsel and I have agreed to as it relates to the guideline, which changes the guideline range in this morning.
Yes, Your Honor. In reference to the sentencing guidelines for Mr. Roy Goodman, Brother Counsel, Mr. Clements, and I we've had an opportunity to review both the PRVs and the OVs, the prior record variable. In reference to Roy Goodman's prior record variable score, which is set at 12, we both believe that to be inaccurate, and it should be set to 0 in this matter. The writer of this report did not observe the 10-year gap rule for Mr. Goodman's prior felony conviction for a controlled substance and the misdemeanor conviction. Both are outside of the gap of the 10 years, and both should not be scored in this matter. And we've asked this honorable court to strike them and set the matter to 0.
PRV will be 0. Any other changes to the OV?
In reference to the offense variable, Your Honor, we begin with OV3. The writer of this report scores the matter at 50. I believe the appropriate value is 25. 50 in this matter would require the writer the offense to involve the operation of a vehicle or some type of ORV, and that is not applicable in this case. So 25 points is appropriate in this matter on OV. The next correction, Your Honor, or I believe that OB5 is scored appropriately at 15. This pertains to the need for psychological counseling. I believe there's a potential contention with that. Is that correct, Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
That's why I was waiting till here in the courtroom.
Thank you. And finally, we believe that the OB6 should be scored at 10 points, Your Honor.
That's fine.
No other changes, Your Honor. We believe the value should be 50 points, bringing the range of 19 to 47 months with a potential maximum of 15 years for this offense. 19 to 47 months.
And of course, my position would be, Judge, at the appropriate time we'll make the argument on OB5, because I believe the appropriate scoring would be 12 to 30 months. I know the court will make that decision after you hear testimony.
That includes the corrections to the offense variable, Your Honor.
And of course, there's no changes to the pre-sentence investigation.
I have no changes to the body of the report, Judge, no.
All right. All right, Mr. Hawk, good morning.
Right.
You had a chance to read the pre-sentence investigation report since the end of your
Yes, Your Honor.
Any changes, additions, or relations to the pre-sentence investigation report?
We have a couple of modifications to be made. To page 5, for the section of their employment. As about a week and a half ago, Ms. Goodman secured employment with the medical team. Out in,
You said the medical?
the medical team is a caregiver, if that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
Her rate of pay is $18 an hour. And they're based out of Livonia, but she works out of Milford, Michigan.
And she starts when?
She started about a week and a half ago.
So what did that just before Christmas?
Correct.
23rd or?
Yes.
So with that information, it'll just change the basic information report, just so that it's consistent. So on page 1 of the basic information report, where it says occupation none, that would be changed to employed, and then her roughly monthly income gross would be around $2,800. Sure.
And what's her occupation?
Caregiver.
Caregiver? Monthly income is how much again?
Roughly $2,800.
Okay.
Aside from that, at the time this report was created, it does have some references to homelessness. She was living out of her car for a period of time. She does have secure housing now. She's residing with her mother-in-law. I can provide that to the court later if you wish, in terms of an address of where her last known address is.
Okay.
I'll provide a statement copy to Brother Counsel as well.
All right.
Aside from that, there are no other additions, deletions, or modifications to be made. And I do believe Brother Counsel and I have stipulated to some changes for the scoring guidelines.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. In terms of the scoring of the guidelines in this matter for Ms. Trevina Goodman, her PRVs are in fact accurate at 0. She has no prior record. In reference to the offense variables, we have some changes in that space. the scoring mirrors that of Roy Goodman. There should be 25 points assessed for OB3. There should be an additional 15 points for OB5. OB6 should be 10 points. And OB17 should be reduced from 5 to 0. The writer of this report scores that inaccurately. This does not involve the use of an automobile in terms of the negligence. In this particular case, not applicable, bringing her total OB points to 50. PRVs at 0. Her guidelines are 19 to 38 months for Trevina Goodman, as opposed to 0 to 11.
Okay. And Mr. Hawk, I take it you agree with all of that with the exception of OB5?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. Ms. Trevina Goodman, Mr. Roy Goodman, please raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Trevina Goodman, please state your name and spell it.
Trevina Goodman, Trevina, G-O-D, and my middle initial Q.
All right. Can you read, write, and understand English language?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review the pre-sentence investigation report
Yes.
with Mr. Hawk?
Yes.
Do you have any changes, additions, deletions to the pre-sentence investigation report, other than the ones we just talked about?
No.
Do you find it to be now factually accurate?
Yes.
And Mr. Roy Goodman, do you read, write, and understand English language?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review the pre-sentence investigation report with your attorney, Mr. Clements?
Yes.
And do you have any changes, additions, or deletions to the pre-sentence investigation report?
No.
Do you find it to be factually accurate? All right. And do either of you have any issue with the sentencing guidelines are currently scored, with the exception of the scoring of OV5?
No.
All right. Mr. Craig, any issue with the pre-sentence investigation report or sentencing guidelines other than what we discussed?
None that we've discussed thus far.
All right. I understand there's some individuals who want to make oral impact statements.
Yes, Your Honor. There are two individuals present in the courtroom. One, Miss Roxanne Clark and Miss Shantae Phillips, both of whom wish to make a victim impact statement in this matter. I would ask the court to allow Miss Roxanne Clark, the godmother of the Phillips children, of the late Harold Phillips, to come forward and give the first of the impact statements.
All right. If you'd please come to the stand here. Do you have a seat?
I do have it on my phone.
That's fine. So ma'am, if you could state your name, spell it, indicate your relationship to the victim, and direct all your comments to me, not to the defendant, okay?
My name is Roxanne Clark. That's Roxanne Clark. And I am Harold's children's godmother and Shantae Phillips, his wife, best friend of 30 plus years.
Go ahead.
I am Roxanne Clark, Shantae's best friend of more than 30 years and the kid's godmother. Harold would often tease her and call me his best friend just to get on her nerves. We would all have conversations about who was going to take care of the kids if something happened, but we never knew we would be living in that reality so soon. Over the 30 years of friendship, we have buried many friends, family members, grandparents, and even parents. However, we never could have imagined either of us burying a spouse before turning 40. On January 30th, 2024, I woke up to a message from my best friend saying her husband of almost 11 years had been mauled by dogs. I rushed to the hospital. I went to pick up my oldest goddaughter from school to take her to the hospital. I then had to help my best friend decide if all the kids would be able to handle the trauma and should come to the hospital to say their goodbyes. I picked up my other god kids, and they were excited to see their dad, saying, "Oh, our daddy got this. A little bite isn't anything," because in their eyes, their dad is strong, their protector, and their hero. I literally had to tell them that the bites were way worse, and it was really serious. They got quiet, but I could hear their fear oh so loud. I took them to the hospital room for my best friend to tell them that the doctor said their dad isn't going to make it, and they are there to say their goodbyes. My youngest godson was too crazy in the room for a while, but they all said their goodbyes. We left as the doctor said there was no hope, and they had given Harold too many bags of blood. But his body wasn't holding any of the blood, so he was on the last bag they could provide. We left the hospital. He had less than a half of a bag, and then we got the call that his body was keeping the blood, and if it continued, he made it through the night. Then surgery will be done in the morning to amputate his arm. He made it. It gave everyone hope, including the kids. For them to still have to say their goodbyes to him all over again a few days later, because despite how hard he fought, it was just too much. He will never get to dance with his daughters or make them practice their talents like singing. He'll never get to see his sons play basketball like he wanted. He will never get to walk his daughters down the aisle or make raps with the kids. He doesn't even get a chance to right any wrongs, teach them any more life lessons. He didn't even get a chance to say bye. Being a dog owner holds a responsibility just as being a parent. In fact, most loving dog owners consider their dogs their family, their babies. With that being said, as a dog owner myself, or parent, I always make sure my babies are protected, not put in harm's way. Never would I know that there is a way for my babies to escape and not take care of it immediately. Never would I not go to really look and find my babies after they've escaped. Warnings, fines, and penalties weren't enough on the forefront, so now we stand here with an entire broken family, fatherless children, heartbreak, crying and sleepless nights, unforgettable trauma over someone else's decision to be careless and irresponsible. Something that would have only taken a few dollars or a few extra minutes cost a life and lifetimes of heartbreak. That's all I have. Thank you.
And Your Honor, at this time, the people will be asking the court to hear from the widow of Mr. Harold Phillips, Ms. Shawn K. Phillips, at this time.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
You could just please state your name, spell it, and then direct all your comments to me, please.
Shantae Phillips, SHAUNTAYE PHILLIPS.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to read the statements that my children wrote. This first statement is from our oldest daughter, Lenice. And she says, "Hi, my name is Lenice, and I'm the oldest daughter of Harold Phillips. I'm in high school, and before my dad was attacked, my parents had a car but no plate, so I took the bus. I always walked to the bus stop from where I stayed, and after I heard that my dad was mauled by dogs,
I was on edge for a while. My godmom helped me for a minute with taking me to school, but even when I would have to hear barking, walking home, I would be paranoid. I feel like since the owners knew the dogs was vicious, they immediately should have muzzled. And my dad didn't deserve that. I feel my dad prepared me and my siblings for when he passed, because he would say things like, when I die, it's up to y'all. But it happened so fast, and there's no way my dad had to lose his life from a fatal attack. Of course, nothing the owners could say or do can bring him back, but this has been the hardest part of my life that can never be healed. My dad stayed on me about school, and I've stayed on the honor roll, and I know he's proud of me, so I'm doing this for him especially, and for everyone else that's supporting me. The next statement is from our son, Hassan, and he says, the impact it left on my family was tough to handle because we didn't expect this, and we had to find support and stay strong for each other and for our other family members. We always wanted him to live long and stay strong, but his death left a huge hole in our hearts. From our son, Haran. It was sad to hear that my dad was slowly dying, and I was not happy with what happened to him, even the things he did wrong. He was still a good person. Even though it's not entirely the good man's fault, I've done better with him here. I am truly hurt, but it will be okay. From our daughter, Harmony. With my dad being gone, it affected my life. And every day I cry because I can't go into my parents' room and see my dad, or I can't tell him how my day was when I get home from school, and how I have to live like this for the rest of my life without my dad being here. It truly hurts, because I'm stuck in this dark place of thinking about what happened to my dad, and I know there's nothing I can do but cry and try to distract myself from what happened. Love you, Dad. Really miss you and your goofiness. From our youngest daughter, Haley. My dad was the best dad I ever had. He was always by my side no matter what, and every time I look up, he told me no matter what you see other people do, you do what you're supposed to do. He always took us out and spent time with us, and I just miss his face and love. Harold and I was married for 10 years. I never imagined having to watch him die so tragically. I'm just trying to do the best I can for my kids now, because that's hard to grow without a parent. I had to grow up without my birth mom. She passed when I was 5. Harold died the day after our daughter turned 8. So this entire year, birthdays, Christmas, it's been really hard. But we're doing our best. And I can't express enough the loss. You know, to have to close the casket on him so soon. He was only 35. It's not fair, but we'll figure it out, I guess.
How's it affect you and your family emotionally?
I cry every day. I couldn't. It's not a day I don't cry. You know, even just for a moment. It's nowhere I can go that I won't say, oh, we went here, we did this. Like, that was 15 years of my life. We don't have, like, a lot of family. We have family, but, you know, that we're close with every day. Harold had to bury his mom. He had to bury his brother. And then I had to bury him. Now, my kids listen to his music. I bought this obituary. My kids listen to his music every day. And we just try to give good memories. Even though that day is a tragic memory that we can't get over. You know, I've never been a dog owner, dog lover. I refuse to go anywhere where there's dogs. I don't care, big or small. I can't, you know. And my best friend has a dog. I won't go in her house if it's not caged. So, just trying to get through this. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Mr. Kramer?
No, Your Honor. No additional text statements at this time.
Understanding what I've heard, I think scoring 15 points for OB5 is appropriate.
Okay. May I make an argument in just so my record is clear, Your Honor?
Sure.
So, first, I would rely on the Court of Appeals opinion in People versus Jaber, which where they expressly addressed this issue as a quote from People versus Bailey. And at the time, the sentencing court heard the following information from the murder victim's wife, and said that the couple had been together for 36 years. They would have celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary, but for the murder. The victim's wife also said that she had forgiven the defendant, even though her husband lost a son, they lost a brother, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather. Later, the victim's wife told the court that she prayed the court would impose the sentence that the defendant deserved. After hearing this information, the court scored 15 points, and the Court of Appeals in People versus Bailey has also upheld in People versus Jaber, ruled that although the victim's wife clearly expressed grief following her husband's death, there was no evidence presented to the court to show that the experience prevented the type of serious psychological trauma contemplated in MCL 777.35. Moreover, Judge, I would also rely on the Criminal Code for Criminal Procedure, which is MCL 777.22, where it outlines offense variable scoring and says that scoring of offense variables 5 and 6 are for homicide, attempted homicide, conspiracy, or solicitation to commit homicide, or assault with intent to murder. Which means that, Judge, for this court to assess points for OB5 in this particular situation, the court would have to find that serious psychological trauma was sought and or necessary pursuant to MCL 77.35. So that's the nature of my objection, Judge, is that the testimony that was provided doesn't even mention the term psychological trauma or that any psychological treatment was sought. It's imperative, in my opinion, that I make this objection because it changes my client's sentencing guidelines from 19 to 47 months to 18 to 30 months, which means essentially that if the court did not score these points, that my client would be sentenced at the top of the guidelines.
Mr. Krager?
Your Honor, I believe in terms of further counsel citing the Jaber case, an unpublished opinion is persuasive at best, not controlling on this court. And the court can certainly take note of those arguments, but is not bound by an unpublished opinion. I believe based on the information the court has received in terms of testimony from both Ms. Phillips and Ms. Clark in reference to the trauma that was experienced by both of these individuals and articulated in the letter form from the children of the Phillips family, documenting in terms of memories that they cannot erase and pain that they are continuously experiencing. I believe the appropriate scoring for this offense variable is in fact 15 points. I would ask the court to maintain that at this time.
Right. So, I mean, Ms. Phillips indicated she cries every day. She indicated particularly the impact that it had on her child, Harmony. I think that is certainly distinguishable from the Jaber case where, when I heard you read, Mr. Clements, made no reference to psychological impact as it did in this case. So I'm going to score 15 points for only 5 in each case. So with respect to Mr. Roy Goodman, the guidelines are at 19 to 47, correct?
19 to 47, correct, Your Honor.
And with respect to Mr. Lena Goodman, the guidelines are 19 to 38, correct?
Correct.
Anything else, Mr. Crago?
Just very briefly from the people, Your Honor, I certainly cannot improve upon or expand the record in reference to the pain and suffering that the Phillips family has endured. The court has heard from Ms. Shante Phillips and Ms. Roxanne Clark, and by way of letters from the victim, Mr. Harold Phillips' family, in terms of his minor children. Your Honor, this is a tragic case in terms of the loss of life of a 35-year-old man who was returning home that evening at the bus stop at Longacre in West Chicago when he was mauled by the Goodman's dogs at that intersection, Your Honor. And in reference to the types of cases we routinely see in this metropolitan area over the past decade or 2 decades, there is this painful frequency of dog-related mauling cases. And I'm thankful that Ms. Phillips, that Shante has some closure in this particular case, and that the words of the smallest children in that family could be heard by the Goodmans, as Mr. Goodman is anticipating serving a prison term in the Michigan Department of Corrections, and Ms. Trevina Goodman has an upcoming in terms of responsibilities to this court for a number of years, that the words of those children will continue to ring in their minds as they move forward in this case, as they think about their actions and their inactions in this case that has led to the tragic death of Harold Phillips. And I would ask the court to impose the sentence agreement that has been entered into between the parties and impose the 30-month jail term, a 30-month prison term for Mr. Roy Goodman, and the probationary term of 3 years with court oversight for Ms. Trevina Goodman in this matter, Your Honor. Thank you.
Judge, on behalf of Mr. Goodman, I'll just say this. We at my firm, we've been fortunate enough to serve a lot of clients. Mr. Goodman is an easy person to advocate for. He's an easy person to advocate for because although his actions were reckless in this particular case and they caused someone to lose their life, he's an individual that has always taken accountability. He didn't drag this process out. He hasn't complained. He's never he's never asked me to seek ways to evade responsibility for what his role in this particular incident was. And I'd ask the court just to focus in on his actions as the incident took place. When he realized that his dogs were missing, he went looking for them. When he saw that the gentleman was injured or in a vulnerable position and that his dogs were attacking them, he pulled the dogs off. He contacted 911. He tried to help this man, even though he knew that he was wrong. When the detectives came to his house to learn what had happened on that particular day, he didn't contact me, he didn't contact another attorney, he didn't exercise his right to remain silent. He explained to them, I let the dogs out, I shouldn't have, I knew that the latch was broken, it was just cold, I thought that they would come back in, and when they didn't, he went looking for them. He's extremely sorry for what happened, for what this family has experienced. He wants me to express his condolences, and I believe that his actions demonstrate that he is remorseful from the very moment that this incident happened. It's unfortunate, it's tragic. My client is not a monster, he's not a bad person, and I'm confident that he'll go into custody, he'll avail himself to whatever programs that he's qualified for. I'd ask that when the court has an opportunity to evaluate him for said programs, that he be admitted in, because he's an individual that has demonstrated that he appreciates, one, the veracity of his actions, and two, his responsibility to reform his conduct, and he'll do that. So I'd ask the court to follow its comments. Thank you.
Mr. Hyde?
Your Honors, we're just ask the court to adopt the sentencing recommendation, but we can't offer anything additional in terms of that, given that there's some unresolved misdemeanors in the 36th District Court related to this matter, as well as some pending civil cases. So we're going to decline to offer any further statement.
All right. Mr. Goodman, anything you want to say?
Just to the Phillips family, I'm so sorry. I wish it wouldn't have happened. No, so sorry.
And Mr. Rita Goodman, is there anything you want to say? I can't hear you.
No.
All right. As it relates to Mr. Roy Goodman, the sentence of this court, that he be sentenced to 30 months to 15 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections with 4 days jail credit. Additionally, you're to pay restitution in the amount of $9,220 jointly and severally with the co-defendant Trevina Goodman to the family of Harold Phillips, in particular Ms. Shawn Tate Phillips. You must execute a wage assignment to pay restitution if you're employed and miss 2 regularly scheduled payments. You're to pay crime victims assessment in the amount of $130. You're to pay court costs in the amount of $1,300. The State Court Administrator's Office has determined that $1,300 is the average cost in support of a case that proceeds through it, and it covers salaries and benefits for court personnel, goods and services necessary for the operation of the court, and necessary expenses for the operation and maintenance of court buildings and facilities. You're also to pay $68 state costs. With respect to Ms. Trevina Goodman, this is case number 24-1711-02-FH. Ms. Trevina Goodman is sentenced to 3 years of probation, along with the following conditions. You should not violate any criminal law of any unit of government. You should not leave the state without the consent of the court. You must make a truthful report to the probation officer monthly or as often as the probation officer may require, either in person or in writing, as required by the probation officer. You must complete a psychological evaluation when you're referred by the field agent. You must complete mental health, domestic violence / battery intervention or the recommended treatment following assessment by a qualified community-based service provider. You shall notify the probation officer immediately of any change of address or employment status. You're to pay restitution in the amount of $9,220, and you must execute a wage assignment to pay restitution if you're employed and miss 2 regularly scheduled payments. That's joint and several with Roy Goodman. You pay crime victims assessment in the amount of $130. That restitution is to be paid at the rate of $500 per month. Pursuant to MCL 791.225A, you must pay a $30 supervision fee for each month of supervision, or $60 per month for each month of supervision when being supervised with an electronic monitoring device. You're to pay court costs in the amount of $1,300. Again, the State Court Administrator's Office has determined that $1,300 is the average cost of this court of case proceeds through it, and to cover salaries and benefits of court personnel, goods and services necessary for the operation of the court, and necessary expenses for the operation and maintenance of court buildings and facilities. And you may perform 100 hours of community service in lieu of court costs. You must forfeit the bond payment toward monies owed on any court-ordered costs, restitution, and/or fines. You must consent to an assignment of wages until court-ordered assessments are paid in full unless otherwise directed by the field agent. You must surrender all tax refunds toward monies owed on any court-ordered restitution, crime victims' assessments, costs, and supervision fees. You're to pay $68 state costs. You shall not own, possess, or harbor any animals during your probation term. You're to pay restitution in an amount to be determined for the funeral. For the $9,000, that's for, was that for medical costs or was that for?
Your Honor, can we address that point of restitution?
Sure.
The people would ask that you strike the prayed for restitution, the amount contained inside the PSIR. The Phillips family, through the generosity and the love and support of the community, has to date, through a GoFundMe page in memory of Harold Phillips, has raised over $80,000 for the Phillips family in support of the tragic loss of Harold. In addition to that, $8,000 from the Michigan Crime Victim Rights Fund fee was distributed in the month of October of this year. So there is no prayed for restitution in this case for the burial expenses or restitution for the Phillips family.
Okay. All right, I'll strike the restitution requirements for both defendants then. Any substantive probation violation will result in a sentence of 18 months to 15 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections, and you shall perform 80 hours of community service at a homeless shelter, soup kitchen, or food pantry in the city of Detroit. You shall begin your community service within 30 days. All costs and fees are due at the time of sentencing unless otherwise indicated. Mr. Goodman and Ms. Goodman, you have the right to request leave to appeal from the Court of Appeals. If you're unable to afford an attorney to prepare post-conviction motions or perfect an appeal, this court will appoint an attorney for you at public expense. Will provide that attorney with such portions of the transcript as that attorney may require to prepare post-conviction motions or perfect an appeal. You're further advised if you wish to file an appeal or motion and request the appointment of an attorney must be made in writing and filed with the clerk of this court within 42 days of today's date. Mr. Goodman, do you understand your appellate rights?
Judge, he's fixing his initials to the form now.
Mr. and Mrs. Goodman, do you understand your appellate rights?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have any questions about your appellate rights?
No.
Anything else at this time?
Nothing for the people, Your Honor.
Not front of the fence.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Best to the family of Harold Phillips.
Thank you.
Calling case number 24-1711-02-FH. Information regarding this document found under case number 24-1711-01-FH.
system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. United and free. Marching with a purpose, we're taking it higher. Fighting through the struggle, igniting the fire. No more silence, we'll make the noise loud. Together in this battle, standing strong and proud. Injustice fades when courage aligns. Rise up together, break the confines. We're the voices that